So we'll start. So today we're going to talk about how to use Facebook and Instagram for impact, either for sharing the research or reaching audiences that are beyond other researchers and academics. How can you find opportunities? Now, last time I talked about LinkedIn, and we focused really a lot on how you can reach other researchers, how you, in a professional capacity, um, and how you can leverage your profile to have a greater impact and reach on either the media, policymakers, the general public. So today we're going to be looking at how you can do that with Facebook and how you can find opportunities. Now, the opportunities that you're going to find using Facebook and Instagram are going to be very different than when you're using a website or your LinkedIn page. And the next time we'll be talking about Twitter and YouTube. So each social media platform attracts a different audience, a demographic. Instagram tends to attract younger people, and Facebook tends to attract people who are 35 and over in the global north. In the global south, it seems that they use it despite age range. But in the global north, it really is something that people consider that their parents use. So you have all of these different platforms that you can use. And having a good idea of how to use them, when to use them, and what type of content and what type of interaction is appropriate on that social media is a good thing to do. So if you have a web page, if you have Instagram, LinkedIn, or any of these, you want to link them together. You want to have like a social media bar. You want to use Linktree. We'll talk about that later for Instagram, so that you're connecting everything together so that people can find you. You want to make it easy because there is so much content on social media on the web that it's very hard to find people. As Yuriko talked about in her branding webinar, you have to brand yourself, not in the sense that you're a label, but in what is it that you do and what is it that you're passionate about. So these are all ways to get that out there, get that information out there. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to find you on different platforms. You can also use your email signature as a way to do that. You can just, put at the bottom of your signature your all your different social media and website links that you have, in addition to any articles that you've written or blogs. So before we go further, we'll first talk about social media etiquette. Since a lot of academics aren't familiar and don't use social media often, there is an etiquette. One, since you are coming at it and your persona is that of a professional, you do want to be professional at all times. People can screenshot what you've posted. And then there's something called the Wayback Machine. People can access other things that you've deleted and posted. So nothing ever really dies. So you want to be 100% sure that what you're putting out there, you want people to be able to see and find. Because if it's not, it could come back to haunt you. Employers are not supposed to use social media as a gauge of employment, but they do. We know they do. We know they Google you. And when you're Googled, your LinkedIn will come up, your Facebook post and your Instagram posts will come up. So people are readily able to see you. So you want to start thinking about what type of persona do I want to generate? You want to generate a professional persona. Be polite, just as if you were in real life. If you were in real life face to face, how would you interact with somebody? And keep in mind that when we're using text-based, word-based communications, we don't have a lot of the social cues of the tone, body language. We can't hear these things. So it's always a good idea to think, am I understanding what this person is saying? Are they being rude, or is it just that it's all I'm seeing is text and I don't have a context? I can't see their facial expressions. So, giving people the benefit of the doubt, asking for clarification. And also, when you post, when you tweet, think about how might this come across? Just as when you're writing a research proposal, when you're writing an article, you're thinking about, okay, how can this be misconstrued? And then trying to fix that. And you want to prioritize. Who do you want to communicate to? Who do you want to communicate with? And what is it that you want to communicate to them? And also this sense of pride, of being proud of what you're doing. Academics are famous for not wanting to self promote, but especially now during COVID, if you're not sharing what you're doing, you're not going to conferences where you can interact and mingle and naturally share what you're doing with your peers, even with your own departments. It's very hard to, between Zoom meetings, to share what it is that you're doing. So share your accolades, share your accomplishments, share your blog posts. This is where you want to put that information out there, because somebody in your network might be looking for someone who's doing research like that. So here you want to curate one persona. We're going to start with Facebook. Now here for Facebook, I've put here is my public page, and this is my private page. And the reason why I started a public page was, one, I have over 5,000 friends and over 3,000 followers. So right there, you see there's a tipping point, like a critical mass of when you start to need to make a public page. I also was having a lot of interviews for the other role I used to have a couple of years ago. They published a lot of articles. I don't really want everyone coming onto my personal page, where I like to keep it separate, because with your public page, it's easier to block people. And before I go further, I do want to say, once you start to become active on social media, I suggest you Google yourself and see if any of the people finder websites or apps have your information on them, because it's very easy to get your phone number, your address, and your public records. I periodically go through about maybe every 3 months to clean up that data, because I do not want anyone showing up to my house. I don't want anyone, seeing what my public records are, or to have my phone number, or even your emails. And what you do, you can just go in there, you find where your information is, and you can contact as if you go click the link, you'll go to your page, and it'll say opt out or remove my data, and you send them an email. So it's very important to remember that, because there are people that are want to steal your identity, or who are just malicious. So you see here, my name is stated clearly here. There's a photo. The background is in relation to what I do. I deal in the Middle East. Uh, this is my public profile. So you have to have a difference in name. So here I have an A from a middle initial here. It's just Anissa Beitia. And then you have the background photo here, which is in relation to what I was also doing. It says terrorism with arrow in brackets. So again, here you're thinking about your brand. Who are you? What are you doing? How do you want people to think about you? And Yuriko did a really good exercise in, kind of emphasizing how branding is really important. Like when you think of David Bowie or you think of Kofi Annan, what are the things you think about? What are the kind of values, ethics, um, that they have? And then when people see your name, you kind of want to have the same thing, like, oh, and you said she does integration of Syrian refugees in Europe, particularly Norway. And I Google myself too to see like how productive, how well am I branding myself? So I'll Google myself and I'll see like a bunch of Syrian information comes up: refugees, Norway, Scandinavia, integration. And then also here, so what are the Facebook elements you're looking for in an individual page? That would be your personal page, which most people have. Um, so you're going to think about, do I want to have a personal page, or do I want to have a public page, or do I want to have both? If you just want to start with a personal page, this is just a really great way to interact with other researchers. I've met so many researchers and was given so many opportunities to collaborate and to write just by other researchers finding me and within my own network. Because a lot of times we don't know what we're doing. Like I had mentioned before, especially now during COVID, everything's online. And if you want to have a public page, this is where you would share not just a post, but a post with your thoughts. It could even be used as a blog. And this is really a good way to reach people. With the personal page, you can do the same thing. But the way that the Facebook algorithm works now is you have to have a certain number of people who are constantly commenting and liking and sharing your content in order for them to regularly regularly appear on their page, on their wall, or else you'll disappear. Um, the public pages, this is where Facebook wants to drive people to pay for ads. And if you take out an ad, even just if you have, say, like I have 3,000 people who follow me, if I have something that I really, really want them to see, I'll take out an ad maybe for like $5 for 3 weeks. And it guarantees that my content is going to be shown to the people that already follow me. Now, one time I wanted to get feedback from people in Norway and Sweden. So I targeted the ad towards that. I tend not to like to use ads, but just sometimes in my research, because I was focused on social media and the use of social media platforms on social integration in Norway, I wanted to do that. So you can do it that way. Another thing that you can do is use hashtags, and you would tailor it to specifically what you say. There's an organization you want to interact with, similar to Twitter. An organization you want to interact with, you do a hashtag or an at, and then they will come up and they pop up. Or say you your page so that they can see, is it content that they want to share with their followers. That's another way to do it. For your personal pages, you can tag people that you want them to see what you're doing. You have to do this sparingly because some people tag all the time. And after a while, it becomes like junk mail. You just start tossing it. You don't look at it. You can also set your personal page so that people can't tag you automatically, that you have to approve that tag. So you're not getting, because once you do have a certain number of followers, um, spammers like to come in, trolls like to come in, and then they'll use your page to promote whatever it is that they want to promote or to sell. So that is kind of a quick glance, and we can get more into questions. I just want to cover basically everything first. So that's kind of how those function. The personal pages, reaching your colleagues, um, reaching out to say with the public page, you can use that more for engaging with the public. At one time, I wanted to engage with Native Americans. So I started to like their pages and interact with them to bring them to see what my content was. Because I felt there was an overlap between my research and also what they were experiencing historically. So I used it that way. So you can be very creative with it, and use different types of hashtags, using tags. Even in the comments section, you can tag people there by using an @ symbol or a hashtag. Another thing is if you want to post something, you want to post things multiple times. So a way to post something multiple times is one, to share the actual link if you have one. Another way is to share the content as a post and then say in a full article in link. Because Facebook likes original content. So the algorithm is going to show original content over a share. It's going to share content with pictures or videos over ones that don't have it. Another thing it'll do, since you have Facebook, you can use your camera to take a picture using Facebook's app, or a video using Facebook, it will prefer and display that content before content coming from other platforms, say like YouTube. So if that's, Facebook, you want to reach your audience there and let them know that you're there because you want to be posting content so that people can see that you're there. So you remain active on their wall so that that algorithm doesn't kick you out. So that's one way to do it. Or you can just also give your opinion and then I've written this article, I've written this blog, or I think this content is really interesting. Link in the comments. So that's one way to do it. Another way to use Facebook are the group pages. Now this is unique to all the social media platforms where you have these groups. The ones that I'm talking about, you have other ones like on Snapchat and there's other platforms that other people use. But for Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, none of them have groups. LinkedIn has groups, but they're not very active, I've noticed, as these groups are. So you have open groups and you have private and secret groups. Now, how I've used these successfully as an academic is I'll search up, okay, PhD students in Europe, PhD students in North America, migration, integration, all the topics that I'm interested in, and I'll join those groups because you have. I'm even part of a group that's called Los Doctoras, the Latin American women who have PhDs or who are pursuing PhDs. And how these groups work is, as a collective, you're gathering all this information, all of this data, job opportunities. When's a new job opening at a university? Well, you have someone there who's they're part of your group. They're letting you know, looking for a new director, looking for a new full professor. Um, there's a call for papers for a book, a call for funding. So you're getting people, that group is 10,000 people. So you have 10,000 people gathering information on something you're interested in. It can be by ethnicity, it can be by gender, it can be by sexual orientation, it can be by topic, it can be by region. So you can join these different groups. And those tend to be most of them tend to be open, but some of them tend to be private, so you can't reshare the content. And these kind of mimic in like at university, you have a group, and yeah, say you all work in migration studies, and you're all from a particular background, and you gather information. But this is even more powerful because you have people from either from all over the world or at different universities and different campuses. Um, and you can also look up researchers in a particular area. Say if you're interested in just researchers in Lebanon who are focused on mental health. There's a group for that. So that's one way to do that. And you can also start a group on your own if it's something that you think that people would be interested in and that you're willing to spend the time to keep it up because these are time consuming things. The nice thing with having a public page is that you can schedule content. You can sit one day, on a couple of days and say, okay, I want this to be sent out at this time. I want this to be sent out on that time. For one organization I worked for, well, for two of them, I did uh, I went to go and find out when were their followers most active? When were they reading and liking and interacting with the content the most? So it was all in California. The other one was in an international organization. So you're going to want your content to reflect that. If you're to that point where you're expanding and want to reach um, different audiences, you're going to want to take note also, when is my content being interacted with the most? When are people up? When are they looking at it? So on Facebook, what matters? What's going to generate that algorithm to start getting your content out there to people? One is the type of content you're sharing. and interaction. The more you interact with someone, the more your content is going to show up on their wall. So if there's a particular set of people that you know that you want your content on their wall all the time, make sure that you're liking and interacting with them. And I talked a lot about, the type of content generated by Facebook itself, content with images, content that is not just a share, but also provides your opinion of something. It could be your opinion and then quotes something from the article or whatever, or the video that you're sharing. But visuals, that's what it loves. So we'll move on to Instagram. So Instagram, again, you have here the branding, the photo, the name. You want your name to be the same across all your social media. So you want the content to be the same, the name, a professional profile picture. And here with LinkedIn, it's not like Facebook. You can't share links directly in what you're posting. So you can use here Linktree, and you put all of your links in there, all your other social media links, and say you want to share an article or a video, you would say that you would just direct the people to link in bio on Linktree, and that's where you would put it there. And you do want to clean up your LinkedIn, your Linktree regularly. So say you posted something 2 months ago, and now you're posting something new. You're going to need to remove that other link or move it further down the Linktree line so that it's easier for people to find. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to the top link. So you want the top link to always be the most recent link. And here you get a chance to write just a little, teaser or something that would interest people. Now, the thing with Facebook and Instagram more so, most academics to people seem wooden. You don't seem like real people. This is where you start to be able to interact with people as if you are in real life, sharing your interests. I have a picture of my cat here, and things that I'm doing in my daily life. So it's a more intimate portrait into what you like. Like say you have a colleague and you both have a passion for food. That's a way that you can connect in a real way. Now with Instagram, since so many young people are on it, and if that's the demographic that you want to work with, this is where you want to be most active. And I had taken a class for sociologists who were mid-career academics and were actively using social media as a form of activism and as a way to do research. And what they did is how they leveraged it was they were doing research. Two of them were doing research with the African American community, particularly around Black Lives Matter and police brutality. And what they did is they would do this, conduct research, but they wanted to make sure that their communities had access to their research. So they would share it on Facebook, they would share it on Instagram, and it became a dialogue between this researcher and their community. And I think a lot of researchers would like to have that. We want to have impact. It's like, we do the research, we go to a conference, we publish it, and that's it. Nothing really happens to it. So one time I was at a conference and I said, we're here presenting and really it's only us, our advisor and our mother who cares. This really who cares about our what we're the research we're doing. What about the audience? What about the people that we conducted this research to? How do we get it back to them? This is one of the wonderful ways that we can, and to actually have an engagement with them. Like, what do you think about this? Hey, this event just happened. They beat another Black man, and another Black man's dead. How do you build that critical mass? And one of the presenters because he was so active, he was invited uh, to hold a position as a fellow at Brookings Institute because he was so engaged with his community and because his research required that type of engagement to show almost as a validity and also as a sense of being able to say this person really is in step, really does understand what is happening in his community that he is researching. So it gave him authority. It gave his voice authority. When I used to do field work that I haven't done in a few years because of COVID, I would go and I would actually ask refugees, what do you think of X policy? Is X policy working for you? Why not? And what do you think would be a good solution? And for me, I really believe this is important, especially when we're doing global work research where we can have an impact on government policy to bring the voices of the people that these policies are being affected by. Because that's democracy. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of work, but it is a process. And if we want to bring in new citizens, if we want to bring in immigrants, if we want to bring in refugees, if we want to bring in asylum seekers to become part of our communities and our government, we need to invite them in. And the same thing with our research. And Eureka has pointed out many times that when we do research, we tend to get public funds. So there should be some public benefit to it. And this is one way to do that. So what are the key elements for for Instagram? It's essentially like a visual Twitter, very short bursts. But instead of using language, it uses pictures. It uses videos. Originally, Instagram was created for photographers and for videographers as a way to share their content. So it's very heavily driven by visual content and hashtag heavy. Your location, when you activate your location, you're going to get more people who are in your area. If you want to get people who are outside of your area, you can also um, say you were in Egypt and you took the photo in Egypt, but right now you're not in Egypt, and you want to share that memory. You can put location Egypt. Say, I remember in Egypt when I was in Egypt and this happened and blah blah blah. You can do it that way, and you can bring an Egyptian audience in. Another way to do it is same thing like Facebook, same thing like Instagram, same thing like LinkedIn. Whatever audience you want to drive to that content, that's what you're going to use the hashtag at. When you use the hashtag, a little drop down list is going to come up and it's going to tell you how many people are part of that list. And it'll say, like, 10,000. You want to click that one. And then there's one that'll be like maybe then 2,000, 3,000, 1,100. So that's how you're going to base it. And say you want to say, share pictures that you took in Sweden. You can say Sweden. Then you can also use the native language, Svenska. And you might want to use Malmo Svenska. You want to use one of Malmo Sweden. Uh, so it just depends on what you want what audience you want to attract. You can also, they also have like business associations. Like say you took beautiful photographs and someone's going to pay for that content as a partnership. So that's kind of similar to what YouTube does. So those are the main key elements. Now with Instagram, you can get more into how to take photographs that are visually interesting, something from a uh, different perspective. Like say you take it a little bit at an angle. You use a bird's eye view, use an ant's eye view. Then there's a lot of different filters that you can use to kind of blur the background and highlight a specific aspect of that picture. You can also use the concepts of photography where you want the subject to always be a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. You really don't want anything ever to be dead center because it's not appealing. Always want it to be a sharp, clean image, as high definition as possible, because that is going to give off a very polished and professional vibe to it. And these are things that you can learn. And as you go through the different um, posts on Instagram, you can see which ones are getting liked more, and look at them for the visual cues. And there's lots of tutorials on just how you know how to. You can even with one of the filters change the tilt and the angle. Say you lean too far forward, you can correct that, or you want it to be that you're off to one side, and you can make your photographs um, in line with your content. If you think that some policy or an article is like off, you could like skew it so that it looks bizarre. It doesn't look natural. So there's many elements that you can use, but you always want to have something very high definition, very polished, very clear. So and Instagram, what matters, media, moving elements, video. You have on Instagram now many little video video filters that you can use. There's the boomerang one where it repeats the content over and over. There's one where you can just when it's instantaneous. You're right there. It's like live. People like that. Then you can edit your content as well. There's filters for the content. I don't think there's any filters that are appropriate for academics to use on Instagram. Um, but you can use those things that are moving. Also, in your sharing, there's a lot of moving elements that you can add to them, like arrows, flashing, flashing letters and content that will attract. Like we did one for the International Women's Week, so it was like women pulling each other up, pushing up and then pulling up. So kind of mimicking like women should help each other. And then say if you want to draw attention to a particular link, like I wanted GRN, so I made my arrow, kind of loop over and point to GRN. Because as people get used to certain type of content, stagnant content, everyone's used to this. It's not going to make them pause. In the stories, it's like you're animating your posts. So there's a number of like stickers and arrows and different things that you can do, say to put it on your story, and that will catch people's eyes and make them stop. And again, this is a visual storytelling. What are you saying with the photograph, or what is it that you want to say, and then find a photograph. And if you're using again a photo that's not yours, give credit to the person who either create the person who created it. So with that, I'm going to end. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining today. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at anisa, ANISA, .a@grn.global, or you feel free to Google my name and I'll pop up and you have many options to communicate with me. And I